Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Amrina Rosyada, and in today's video, I'm going to present one of the branches in linguistic, namely discourse analysis. So in this video, I'm going to present four topics or material about discourse analysis. The first one is theory and basic concept of discourse analysis. The second one is language functions, and the third one is language forms, spoken and written, and the last one is speech act. So now we go to the first material or the first topic, that is theory and basic concept of discourse analysis. So, discourse analysis is a qualitative research method that explores the structure and expression of language within its social and cultural context. It involves studying how language is used to create meaning in different social and cultural contexts, and how it is used to engage in action and form social identity. Discourse analysis goes beyond analyzing words and sentences and instead focuses on how language is used to construct and maintain social reality, power relation, and identity. Next is discourse versus text. So when we're talking about discourse versus text, it's basically about the difference between discourse and text. So, as I mentioned earlier, discourse is the use of language in social context, and it goes beyond analyzing words and sentences. It focuses on how language is used to create meaning in different social contexts, engage in actions, and form social identity. Discourse is the systemic and regularized use of language in a given society, and it is through discourse that language users construct and negotiate meaning and social realities. While text, a text can refer to any written material that can be read, such as work of literature, a lesson right in the blackboard, or even a street sign. It is a coherent set of signs that transmit some kind of informative message. In literary studies, text usually refers to the written materials. Example of text include novels, drama, short story, as well as the content of letters, bills, posters, and similar entities that contain written material. So the main difference between discourse and text is that discourse is the use of language in social context, while text is referred to a specific instance of written or spoken language that can be analyzed. So that's the explanation about the theory of discourse analysis. Now we go to the basic concept of discourse analysis. So there are some basic concept of discourse analysis. The first one is context. The second is discourse participants. The third one is cohesion and coherence. The fourth one is interferences and implicature, and the last one is presupposition. Now I'm going to explain the first basic concept, that is context. According to Van Jake 1998, context is the structured set of all properties of a social situation that are possibly relevant for the production, structures, interpretation, and function of text and talk. Context can be linguistic or situational. Linguistic context, otherwise known as co-text, refers to the linguistic environment of a thread of utterance and the logical connectedness of all its individual linguistic units. It is linguistic because it refers to all the lexical items in a given place of discourse and their connectedness as a unified whole. The second one is discourse participants. Discourse participants are the persons or non-person, visible or invisible, that are directly or indirectly involved in any communicative event. They include the speakers, writers, or signifiers, as well as the listeners, readers, or addresses. In speech, the speakers and the listener or a target audience, immediate or remote, constitute the discourse participants, while in writing, the writer and the readers form the discourse participants. And the relationship between discourse participants determine the nature of the discourse. Therefore, adequate knowledge on the role, identity, status, background, interrelation, affiliation, shared knowledge, belief, value, and so on. Of course, participants usually aid discourse construction and interpretation. Next is cohesion and coherence. Cohesion is the grammatical and lexical relationship between different elements of text which hold it together. It deals with the surface structure of discourse and includes concepts such as linking words, consistent ideas, and the use of cohesive devices like connectives and consistent ideas. Next is coherence. Coherence refers to the ways that text makes sense to the reader and writer through the relevance and acceptability of its configuration of concepts, ideas, and theories. It is concerned with the overall structure and organization of a text, ensuring that the ideas and argument presented are logically and chronologically coherent. Next is inferences and implicatures. Inferences are the conclusion or interpretation that are the reader or a listener makes based on the information presented in a text or speech. These inferences are not explicitly stated but are instead drawn from the background knowledge of the listener or a reader. In discourse analysis, the study of inferences involves examining how language is constructed and interpreted in communication, and how inferences can vary based on different social and cultural contexts. While implicatures are the implied meaning or suggestions that are conveyed through language but not explicitly stated. These implicatures are often based on the context of the communication and as well as the writer or the reader intention. In discourse analysis, the study of implicatures involves examining how meaning is conveyed through language, and how implicatures can be interpreted and understood by different audiences. Okay, next we go to the last basic concept, that is presuppositions. Presuppositions in discourse analysis refers to the implicit assumption or beliefs that are taken for granted or implied by a speaker in a communication. These presuppositions are not explicitly stated, but are instead inferred from the context and the speaker's or writer's background knowledge. Presupposition analysis is important in discourse analysis because it helps to understand how meaning is constructed and interpreted in communication, and how presuppositions can vary based on different social and cultural background. Well, we go to the second topic or second materials of this presentation, that is language function. So according to Jacobson's function of language, there are 6 functions of language that are needed for communication to occur. In addition, there are 6 factors or elements in the communication process. Each function focuses on and interact with a factor of communication process. So what are the factors? The first is context. Context is forms the setting or reason for the communication for the message that will be communicated. Sorry. And the second is addresser or a sender or a person who deliver a message to a specific audience. The third is addressee or the receiver or the person who receive a message from the sender. Next is the contact. This is the relationship between the sender and the receiver. This connection keeps the lines of communication open. Next is common code. We can say that common code is the way we deliver a message to the audience. And the last one is message. As we know, message is what is sent by the sender to the audience. So that are the factors in the communication process. Next, we go to the function of language. So 6 functions of language include that the first one is, we call that as referential function. Referential function focuses on context, and we use this function to show things or fact or something that obviously happened. The second function is emotive function. This function also known as expressive function. This function focuses on addresser or the sender or the speaker. This function comes out when we want to express our own emotion without intended to deliver a message. Next is conative function. Conative function is oriented toward the addressee or the receiver. We use this function to make someone to do something. So that's why it's focused on the sender, because we use this function to make someone to do something. For example, when we say, go away, go clean your room, go to hell. No, I'm just kidding. Next is pathic function. This function focuses on the contact. So this function, firstly, to maintain the contact with the person who are we talking to. For example, when we say, hello, do you hear me? Are you listening? So basically this function is to ensure that the communication between the sender and the receiver are still open. Next is metalingual function. Metalingual function focus on the code or the way we deliver a message to the specific audience. We use this function when we want to explain word or phrases with another word or phrases to ensure that the sender and the receiver have the same understanding. For example, we use the word rude. Rude such a bad habits or bad things that many people hate. We here we use the metalingual function to explain the word rude with another word or phrases to ensure that the sender and the receiver have the same understanding with the word rude. Okay. The last one is pathic. Oh, The last one is poetic function. The poetic function is orientation toward message and the function and the focus on the message for its own sake. The use of this function is for artistic and creative purposes such as poetry, storytelling, and wordplay. So that's the explanation about language function according to Roman Jacobson's. Now we go to the third topics or the third material, that is language forms, spoken and written. Okay, now I will explain about language forms, spoken and written. For the first part, I will explain about spoken discourse. In this part, there are some things I would like to explain. The first is sequential and distributional analysis. Discourse analysis often involve two types of reading, that is sequential analysis and distributional analysis. Sequential analysis focusing on the order of events and their significance in the discourse, and distributional analysis examining the occurrence and co-occurrence of specific language features. Combining both analysis enhance our understanding of specific moments and general features in interactions. The second one is repair. In spoken discourse analysis, repair refers to instance when speaker correct or revise their previous utterance. It can occur when there's a breakdown in communication and the speaker self-corrects to maintain clarity. For example, if someone says, I saw him at the park, the hesitation represent a repair at the speaker corrects mind sentence. Next is recipient designs. Recipient designs is the area that speakers tailor their communication to suit the perceived understanding of the audience. It involves adjusting language based on the assumed knowledge, expectation, or needs of the listener. An example of recipient designs is when a teacher explains a complex concept differently depending on whether they are speaking to student or college, considering the varying levels of expertise of in the audience. Next is comparing transcript. Comparing transcripts is crucial in discourse analysis. While tools in communication are often similar across transcripts, different skills in how terms are exchanged. Recognizing similarities and difference is vital. To build discourse generalizations, comparing examples from similar and different contexts is valuable. It helps us understand the relationship between social features and language use in various speech situations or aspects. Next is agency pairs. Agency pairs involve two-part sequence in conversation. Interviewers initiate conversations with questions. Questions are incomplete preposition, lacking elements like who, what, etc. They serve as speech acts, opening a slot for answer. Expectations in agency pairs help both speakers and listeners organize their conversations, providing clues about thought and actions. Next is participant framework. In spoken discourse analysis, a participant framework refers to the structure that governs how participants take turn and engage in conversations. It includes the rules and expectations regarding when and how individuals contribute to the discourse. For example, in a classroom meeting, the participant framework might dictate that students raise their hand to speak. The teacher serves a central figure, and the student follow the established norm of seeking permission before contributing to the conversations. And next is narrative. In spoken discourse, a narrative refers to a spoken account or story that conveys a series of events or experiences. Narratives are a distinct form of communication where individuals share information in a structured and often chronological manner. They typically include elements such as introduction or orientation, a plot with event or complicating action, an assessment or reflection or evaluation, and a cohesion or coda. The analysis of narrative is the analysis of narrative in spoken discourse involving examining how individuals construct and present stories, considering language features, pacing, and the impact on the listener. That's the explanation for the spoken discourse. Now, I'm going to explain about the written discourse. Well, in this written discourse, there are two things that I will explain. The first one is fragmentation and integration. Uh, in written discourse analysis, fragmentation and integration refers to two contrasting way information is presented in written language. Fragmentation occurs when information is segmented into small, syntactically simple chunks of language. Each segment typically presents one idea at a time. This style is characterized by a swift transition from one idea or thought into another. It reflects a more straightforward and segmented structure resembling the pacing of spoken discourse. The second one is integration. Integration involves the arrangement of information into long, syntactically complex chunks of language. The chunk present multiple ideas simultaneously and often involve the weaving of various types and level of information into sentences. In a sense, the choice between fragmentation and integration in writing depends on the writer's intention, the nature of the content, and the desired impact on the reader. The next one is writing to be read. Writing to be read in written discourse analysis refers to the intentional construction of a text with the anticipation that it will be read by an audience. This approach involves consideration for clarity, engagement, and the effective communication of ideas to the intended readers. Alright, everyone, now we are in the last topic of this presentation, that is about speech act. Speech act in discourse analysis refers to the function of language in performing action or conveying meaning in social contexts. It is the idea that language is used to express social action such as requesting, apologizing, and complaining. Speech act theory aims to classify the kinds of speech acts we perform, such as assertive, directives, commissives, expressives, and declarations. It is concerned with meaning, use, and actions, and it provides the foundation for the analysis of social action. Speech act can be classified into three levels. The first is locutionary. The second one is illocutionary, and the last one is perlocutionary. The locutionary, or the first level of speech act, is the act of producing speech with a certain meaning of and grammatical structure. And the illocutionary act is the act of using language to perform a specific function, such as making a request, giving an order, or making a promise. And the last one is the perlocutionary act, is the act of using language to produce a certain effect on the listener, such as persuading, convincing, or misleading. These three levels speech act are important in discourse analysis because they help to understand how language is constructed and interpreted in communication, and how speech act can vary based on different social and cultural contexts. Alright everyone, that's all the explanation from me about discourse analysis. Thank you so much for watching this video if you watch this video till the end. And I also apologize if I have any mistakes during filming this video. And thank you so much. Telah saya Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.